Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we've invoked the concept of journeying and how the observances and that the physical steps and the rites that the Hujjaj are partaking in, how this very much is symbolizing this journey from darkness into light. That all of us are seeking this liberation and this freedom from jahiliyyah, right? Seeking the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there's a really beautiful description of Hajj that I would invite everybody to look up. And this was a book written by Ali Shariati, the great post-colonial thinker from Iran. And I mention this very intentionally, given some of the sectarian sentiments that are circulating right now in our community. And Ali Shariati truly had one of the most beautiful reflections on the symbolism and the power of the manasik of Hajj. And so he says that Hajj is very much about returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when we stand at Arafah, for example, it's almost like a preview of how all of humanity will be gathered to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. And so he says, in returning to Allah ta'ala, there are three stages that all of us are passing through as pilgrims. And he focuses on Arafah or Arafat, on the Mash'ar, and on Mina. And so he says, in returning to Allah Ta'ala, there are three stages through which you must pass. And he says, they're not mere places that you visit. These are places of reflection. And they are places where he gives us this amazing metaphor of an army. And he describes this as the army of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the army of Tawheed. And so each step along the way is a place where that army is basically preparing supplies and preparing themselves to confront that entity that Allah Ta'ala describes as that avowed enemy to all of humanity, which is Iblis or Shaitan. And so he says we have to be aware of the emphasis that is placed when we stop at each stage and what they signify. And so for Ali Shariati, Arafah or Arafat is all about knowledge. And I love how he makes a connection between Arafat and that primordial knowledge of the purpose of the creation of the human being. And he reminds us regarding Arafah or Arafat that the time of man's creation, he says, was simultaneous to the creation of knowledge. That Arafah really signifies the human being coming into true awareness of God, awareness of creation, awareness of our purpose, awareness of our destination. So he says, go from Mecca to Arafat and then return from Arafat to the Kaaba. Arafat, Dr. Shariati writes, represents the beginning of man's creation. And the story of Adam, it is said, after Adam's descent to earth, he met Hawa at Arafat. And it was there that they were acquainted with each other. So that's the first station that he reflects on. And then he says, once we come into that initial fitri understanding, that kind of innate natural understanding and awareness, then we go to the mash'ar. And he says about the mash'ar is the gathering place of the army of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the army of Tawheed. And this is what he writes about the mash'ar. It's a really, he paints a beautiful portrait of the Hujjaj and how they've stood all day at Arafah, and they're there under the blazing sun, and then by night they're at the Mash'ar and they're trying to rest. And he says, put your arms under your head and have privacy with Allah Ta'ala tonight. Only Him and you are together along with your arms, right? Your pebbles and faith. Leave this mean world and ignore your limitations. He says, fly above this heavenly sky, pass through the openings in the stars, and ascend the roof of creation. Because if you are truly a follower of Ar-Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, do what he did. Let your heart be enlivened by love, he writes. So that is the station of the mash'ar. And then he says, now the army begins to assemble at Mina, right? The army of Ibrahim alayhi salam, as they have prepared their pebbles so that they can go to the Jamarat. And in the way that when Ibrahim alayhi salam had the dream of sacrificing Ismail, remember Shaitan tried to dissuade Ibrahim. And Ibrahim cast those pebbles at Shaitan because Ibrahim was going to follow Allah Ta'ala's command. And we know that he was ultimately gifted with the ram. And that is the story of the sacrifice. And so for Dr. Shariati, Mina now symbolizes a borderland. It's a borderland between Jahiliyyah and guidance. It's a borderland that symbolizes the readiness of the people to defend the truth, to stand for Islam, to engage in struggle and sacrifice and jihad. And he has a beautiful reminder here where he quotes from chapter 28. This is verse 5. So Al-Qasas, and he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَنُرِيدُ, quoting the ayah, right? وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ على الذين استضعفوا في الأرض ونجعلهم أئمة ونجعلهم الوارثين. So he quotes this ayah, but it was our will to favor those who were oppressed in the land, making them models of faith as well as successors. And so Dr. Shariati says that this ayah is very much about the fulfillment of Allah Ta'ala's promise that the oppressors will not ultimately triumph, that the meek, the oppressed, they will be those who inherit the earth. Let them, and Dr. Shariat, he says this, right, about the oppressors, let them say what pleases them. Regardless of what the oppressors say, Allah promises that he will rescue and liberate the victims of oppression. So again, those are the three metaphors that he invokes here, from Arafah to Mash'ar to Mina, as the army of Ibrahim alayhi salam, as they assemble to stand for and to defend the truth. And may Allah Ta'ala allow all of us to embody that, whether we are on the Hajj or we are here. May all of us stand in the way that Ibrahim stood against the shaitan. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.